You probably heard stories of getting high repeatedly, lying fully naked after committing some stupid violation, and reaching the lowest possible point for a human being. And then true love finds the poor thing. He is determined to change, and the victory of spirit happens, escaping the abyss, reaching top of the pops, drinking ambrosia at the Hollywood Olympus, and becoming the highest paid actor in history. Very dramatic and theatrical, all-inspiring, fairy tale-like even. But something similar has indeed happened to some actors and actresses on occasion. Many believe this is exactly Downey Jr.'s story. Is that really the case, though? Why did he get so many last chances? How can a Hollywood actor survive 15 flops in a row? Which movie really saved Downey Jr.'s career? And what does Johnny Depp have to do with it? You're watching Hollywood Lore, and here we are not just telling stories, we're explaining them. Robert's dad was a movie director. A strange one and not for everyone, but Robert liked it and got involved into his dad's surreal and absurd movies at a very young age. The actor once said that during childhood, he was waking up and falling asleep with the sounds of a clapperboard and the smell of cigarettes, and felt pretty fine with it. No wonder the first Robert's appearance on screen happened in one of his father's movies. Robert Sr. had to cultivate his creativity as a film director and find inspiration somewhere for his satiric projects. For that, he used some pretty suspicious substances. You might say it's a mind trap, which is usually created to justify an addiction. That's true. But the fact is that one day Robert Sr. made a damn bad decision, that a mind-blowing dope experience would also reveal the hidden talents of his 6-year-old son. Of course, he regretted it later. But back then, Robert Sr. was like an impregnable fortress to Jr., a feeling familiar to many kids, like, for example, Shia LaBeouf. The difference is that Jr.'s father didn't have Vietnamese flashbacks during his trips, and that's a bit better. So Robert actually enjoyed getting stoned with his dad. That helped him feel an emotional connection with the parent, a rare occasion, as Robert later said. Downey's success started around 1985 when he starred as James Spader's sidekick in Tough Turf. Robert and James became good friends, and there's even a legend Downey named his cat Jimmy, precisely after Spader. The movie not only helped Robert to properly pick up a name for the pet, which is huge, but also allowed to land a bully's role in the comedy Weird Science a bit later. The film was a box office hit, and people started noticing a pretty black-eyed actor. More second lead roles in comedies like Back to School followed, which also did well in theaters, grossing $91 million with a budget of only 11. But then, for many years to come, Downey had to forget what it is to participate in a commercially successful movie. From 1987, Robert began to have lead roles, like in The Pickup Artist, where he starred with the Breakfast Club star Molly Ringwald. At first, the director considered Robert De Niro for this role, but decided to go with a younger actor. Imagine De Niro instead of Downey Jr. in this one. Cringy, isn't it? But let's go even further here, shall we? Which other Robert Downey Jr. role would fit Robert De Niro, or vice versa? Only wrong answers are allowed. Have fun in the comments. Back on track again. The Pickup Artist was praised by the critics, but failed to gain more than $15 million, the sum spent on its production. A standard story for Robert during these years, so after filming he casually went back to LA, where his father lived. The reunification with Robert Sr. went so well that after filming the next movie, Less Than Zero, Downey had to go to rehab. In Less Than Zero, Robert played a drug addict and everyone praised his performance, amazed at how realistically he portrayed a junkie. Downey Jr. said for him this role was like a ghost of Christmas Future. It made him acknowledge the addiction problem and notice some suspicious patterns in his life. Sounds good, but it was just the beginning of a long journey, full of attempts to pull himself together. Less Than Zero performed the same as The Pickup Artist, that is, it flopped. Same with 1969 starring Kiefer Sutherland. With him, Robert were roommates for 3 years, IRL, just for the record. Less Than Zero earned $12 million in the US on a budget of $8 million, which seems to be profitable, but considering movie distribution economics, the studio barely broke even due to marketing expenses and cinema cuts. We explain movies' profits and losses in the Terminator video, so check it out to know more. By the early 90s, 7 Roberts movies in a row had flopped. This disaster stopped for a little while with the appearance of Mel Gibson in Downey's life. Mel saved Robert from trashy projects by bringing him into Air America. Gibson became a close friend of Downey. It's an acquaintance without which Downey, as we know him, might not have been. But more on that later. Air America bombed and critics harshly criticized it, saying it was some unrealistic nonsense. They praised all the actors, though. Robert was loved by the critics even more than undeniably talented Mel Gibson. During this period, it was in good taste for the critics to highlight how gifted Downey is and predict some greatness for him in the near future, even if they didn't like the film itself. Robert later said Air America turned out great, but he's not eager to go through such filming experience again. The director of the movie, Roger Spottiswoode, felt some of the stunts had to be performed without any special effects. "Too unnatural looking, so do it yourself, Robert, or the scene will be cut out," he said. Downey obliged and performed a stunt hanging in the air, holding onto a rope in Thailand's sky. Later, he shared how challenging it was and doubted he'll ever go to Thailand again in the next 1,000 years. Imagine a level of scary flashbacks, and admire Robert's dedication to work. This approach soon will help Robert to land one of his most praised roles. Interesting fact, Brad Pitt could have stayed in the shadows if Downey was a bit taller. After Air America, Robert had an audition in Thelma and Louise, the project that was Pitt's breakout. After William Baldwin left the movie, a quick replacement was needed, so at first producers picked Robert. Director Ridley Scott dismissed him, though, saying Gina Davis might accidentally crush such a cowboy. Gina was significantly taller and it looked pretty dumb. As Robert was on the shorter side, he was replaced with Brad Pitt. We have a video about Pitt's career, by the way, telling how he conquered Hollywood despite numerous flops. So in 1992, finally came out a movie that established Robert Downey Jr. as a major talent, Chaplin, directed by Richard Attenborough. Robert called Richard the Yoda of cinema and took the challenge to play Chaplin as a serious and highly devoted Padawan. Downey prepared for this role for more than half a year. He learned the British accent, playing tennis and violin with his left hand, and all the complicated choreography of Charlie's moves. Robert basically transformed into the legend. Director later said that between takes and during improvisations, it was not Robert, but still Chaplin. Preparing for the role, Downey also visited one museum in London, where Chaplin's costumes were, and tried one of those. It fit like a glove. Even more than that, Robert discovered a cigar in its pocket, and now considers it one of his major treasures. Robert later said that during the filming of Chaplin, he got high repeatedly. This time, Robert might not have been alone in his artsy trips. David Duchovny was also in the cast, and probably both spent some interesting time on set. Talent plus dedication in Chaplin led to Robert's first Oscar nomination, and getting a British Academy Award for Best Actor. That was good. Another good thing was that despite not liking the film itself, the critics absolutely loved Downey in it, and the audience supported this opinion. But the bad thing is, the movie flopped hard, and that was the 12th flop in a row for Robert. Before Chaplin, Robert's films usually had small budgets and probably managed to break through TV and home video sales. Probably. Chaplin, on the other hand, managed to become not just a failure, but a miserable one. With a decent budget of $31 million, it made only 12. This disaster greatly contributed to the sinking of Carolco Pictures Studio. Unbelievable, but even Terminator 2, with his mind-blowing success in 1991, didn't save the day. After Chaplin, 3 more of Downey's movies sank, bringing the total score to 15. Hard not to ask some questions and get overexcited when you remember how many actors were kicked out from the high league for less. Like maybe this wonderful immunity had something to do with Robert's filmmaking father or stuff like that. But let's calm down a little bit, okay? Robert Downey Sr. made counterculture films that went straight to video. So there are serious doubts he had enough influence in Hollywood. Jack Nicholson was a friend of Downey's family, they say, but no visible signs of his influence on Jr.'s career are there. Frankly speaking, the family was actually pulling Jr. down. He participated in several projects with his dad during this time, like Johnny Be Good, Too Much Sun, Hail Caesar, Hugo Pool. But when Downey Jr. went sober, by amazing, unexplainable coincidence, no more co-projects followed. Except for the documentary Senior, which was filmed during Downey Sr.'s last days. But that's a different matter. You might say in the 2000s, Downey Sr. was simply too old. But come on, tell someone else about age in Hollywood. Like Martin Scorsese or Clint Eastwood. That'll surely be an interesting conversation. Perhaps the trick here is that Robert rarely played the lead alone. He was often part of an ensemble cast. Adorable common tactic in Hollywood. Michael Douglas loves it. He mentioned looking for famous co-stars to minimize risks, and almost ran away from Basic Instinct for this very reason. Also, audiences generally rated Robert's movies above average, except for films like previously mentioned Johnny Be Good. More than that, Downey was liked by many people in the industry because he didn't turn down even small roles. Someone asked to participate for almost nothing? Yeah, why not? That's precisely how Downey got into Richard III movie, and played a minor role there because he was asked to. But that didn't help Robert much with the success of his movies. with the lack of it, actually. When it seemed like he couldn't fall any further, Oliver Stone's Natural-Born Killers came along. Tarantino wrote a script for this one and added to its quality on his behalf. Robert played a supporting role alongside other big names who liked Suspicious Substances almost as much as he did. Critics praised the talented cast, and the movie won various awards, besides being a box office success. So maybe from here everything will be fine? Stone, Tarantino, High League? Nah, not this time. Robert's love for illegal substances was too wild back then. In 1996, the police stopped his car in a Los Angeles suburb. Downey was naked, and the car was full of cocaine, heroin, and more pixie dust like that. Some of it was already in Robert's wasted body. As if it wasn't enough, an unregistered gun laid nearby, so the actor was quickly sentenced to 3 years in prison. Robert spent only 6 months behind bars, though, before being released on the condition of daily drug tests. He missed one and ended up back in jail again. While all this was happening in the background, Downey took any role he could get, including one in the blatantly trashy film Danger Zone. But who cares if the movie is crap when you get paid $500,000 for 2 weeks of filming? Same with U.S. Marshals. Robert stated that was the worst film script he had ever read. But so much money was thrown at him, he just physically couldn't refuse, even though a leading part in Wild Things was on the horizon. Downey dismissed this one as there was no such cash carnival there. In 1999, Downey ignored another drug test and was sentenced to 3 more years in prison. Luckily, he spent just a year there. Upon release, Downey managed to land a role in the TV series Ally McBeal and even won a Golden Globe. Everyone praised Robert again, seeing his bright future. Some critics even said Downey's performance was the best thing that has happened to TV ever. One should think like, wow, that was fast. Finally, some happy times? Well, not really. Bullshit in Robert's life hadn't stopped there. He lost his house in Malibu due to attorney bills, moved all the time, and was buried in debt. In 2000, he was caught barefooted with drugs again. This time, Downey avoided jail. While on parole, he was required to take daily drug tests for every project he participated in. Spoiler, that didn't work. Later, Robert got wasted again, was caught and fired from Ally McBeal. Previously, he revived the show's ratings, but the creators mercilessly rewrote the script, deleting Downey Jr. from it. The actor also lost a lead role in America's Sweethearts and Hamlet stage production, directed by his friend Mel Gibson, which had to be canceled without Downey. At this point, the smell of a pretty crappy future for Downey's not only career, but his whole life appeared in the air. He was facing over 4 years of prison, but thanks to a new California law, he was allowed to commute his sentence to a year in rehab and 3 years of regular drug tests. This was only possible because Downey had never been aggressively violent under substances. After spending a year in rehab, the actor realized Hollywood no longer wanted him. Insurance companies noticed Downey's name in the list and immediately started blinking repeatedly, obviously hoping it would magically disappear. If that didn't happen, they refused or charged exorbitant prices, expecting no fool would pay that much. Downey could have covered the cost himself if he had the money, but he was practically bankrupt by then. Woody Allen later confirmed this, saying that completion bonding companies would not bond the film with Downey. No film with him could pass their risk assessment, leaving Downey essentially unemployable. All that looked really bad, but something saved Robert. Well, not exactly something, most likely someone. That someone was Mel Gibson. He stepped in and decided to help his friend despite Downey screwing him up with Hamlet a year ago. Gibson was supposed to have a lead role in the small film The Singing Detective, but gave it to Robert instead, understanding his miserable situation. Gibson covered the insurance costs and kept a roof over Downey's head. Gold-hearted man indeed. It's unclear if Mel expected the movie to flop or not, because it did, but for sure, he hoped Robert's career will be revived with its help. And that's exactly what happened. Downey got noticed again, both by critics and audiences. Downey returned the favor to Gibson later, supporting him during the shitstorm after The Passion of the Christ release. Soon after, the singing detective Robert managed to get a supporting role in Gothika, with a condition, however. Most of his salary was withheld until filming ended, because who knows, maybe Robert makes some mess again. He actually did, but in an unexpected manner. During the interrogation scene, Robert accidentally broke Halle Berry's arm, so the production stopped for several weeks. But generally this time, Robert decided to make not mess, but love. On set, he found a wife, producer Susan Levin. The actor's confessions about her crucial significance in his fight with addictions are pretty legendary now. What a fairy tale, you might say, but it could be true. Considering Guy Ritchie's words about their couple, like if there was no Susan to police Robert, he would be a massive headache. Finding his own beloved personal producer, Downey continued taking small, low-budget roles for some time. That was until 2005 when he joined two projects. One of them was produced by his wife Susan, so he probably had to work twice as hard on set. The movie flopped, but critics and audiences loved it, blaming its failure on Warner Brothers' lack of promotion. This movie was very important for Downey, as he once again demonstrated his wide range of acting and comedic timing. He played an eccentric character again, but this time a dumb one. And it was enough for another outcast to spot him. Another project was Good Night and Good Luck. Everyone liked it as well, but also it managed to make $51 million with a budget of $7 million. This film brought Robert many offers, even though he had a supporting role there. For a while, the actor focused on independent projects like A Scanner Darkly and A Guide to Recognizing Your Saints. These films cost a couple of bucks, but found audiences on home media and, most importantly, received critical acclaim. For A Guide to Recognizing Your Saints, Robert even won a Sundance Award. In 2006, he felt like making something more impressive and joined David Fincher's Zodiac. That was another Fincher's movie with profits good enough only for buying a bag of peanuts, as it made $84 million with a budget of $65 million. But the movie was traditionally praised by the critics, so Robert got really lucky to participate. At first, there should have been no Robert there, but Brad Pitt, the exact opposite of Thelma and Louise' situation. But Fincher was too slow in making some calibrations, preparations, revisions, so Brad lost his temper and ran away to develop his own movie production company. Robert, on the other hand, wasn't bothered by slow pre-production. On the contrary, his sufferings began when filming started. Numerous repetitions and takes pissed Downey off, but in the end he obliged, and decided to play Fincher's cruel game till the end. And the universe immediately reacted to such impressive Zen skills. While Downey was enduring Fincher's working methods, Marvel Studios was searching for their Iron Man. Candidate number one for portraying Tony Stark was Tom Cruise at first. There are many stories about why Cruise didn't get the role. Officially, he couldn't agree on his level of control over the project. Unofficially, Tom demanded a truck of money and a percentage of Marvel's future earnings. There are rumors he even tried to give super talented tips to the director Jon Favreau, who didn't have a big name back then, to the point where the necessity to have a director at all was questionable. Because why bother when Tom is on set? He'll perfectly do everything himself. Acting, stunts, directing, who cares? Realizing there's a perspective for Tony Stark to turn into Ethan Hunt, the producers started looking for someone else to portray Iron Man. And there were actually not many options. It may seem odd now, but in 2007, comic book movies were significantly less popular. So actors weren't exactly eager to participate in such a suspicious project. Rachel McAdams wrinkled her nose and turned down a role in Iron Man, only to later be super excited about participating in Doctor Strange. Eventually, director Jon Favreau suggested Robert Downey Jr. He later said that Downey wasn't an obvious choice for the studio, but he saw him in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and thought, wow, that can be the guy. Tony Stark should have been charismatic, cynical, quick-witted, and a bit ass. Kind of sort of Jack Sparrow and Elon Musk mixed together. Also, a little troubled, so Robert's personal struggles seemed like a perfect bonus to Favreau. Paramount Studio wasn't happy seeing Downey's name as a main candidate. Jon Favreau and Kevin Feige insisted that Downey could become what Johnny Depp became for Pirates of the Caribbean. Robert killed it at the audition and didn't ask for a lot of money. The fact that he survived David Fincher's kitchen and didn't relapse was also a damn good sign. So the studio was finally convinced, and Robert was hired. For the first Iron Man, he earned $500,000. Just for the record, other actors got significantly more. Terrence Howard, for instance, earned $3.5 million. Downey wasn't whining about it, though. He participated in the project with his trademark devotion, paying visits to the director a lot during pre-production and working on the script. Most likely jokes in there, as he saw humor as an important part of his character, and didn't want to become a snobby superhero who always pompously and lifelessly speaks about goodness. Visually, Robert wanted to look like a proper superhero, though, so he gained some muscles in case someone takes away his iron costume. Now we know how amazingly all these decisions worked, like for real. Iron Man was released in 2008. Its budget was $140 million. and it grossed 585 worldwide. Robert immediately became a huge star and faced no shortage of offers. Ben Stiller got particularly lucky there. He dragged Robert in Tropic Thunder before Iron Man's success and paid him his pre-star salary. Initially, Robert refused due to the controversial blackface and called this image extremely stupid. But later he probably got the idea and its meaning in the movie, which is exactly actors taking themselves too seriously, so changed his mind and agreed. Would have been really interesting to observe a reaction to something like that nowadays. Maybe there would have been no Downey after all, just saying. His mother was terrified about the idea. Later, after laughing her ass off while reading the script, she said that if done properly, this could be big, so it happened. The role earned Robert an Oscar nomination. Critics adored Downey and praised him the most, even more than Tom Cruise. So finally, there were happy days. During this time, Guy Ritchie was looking for someone to play Sherlock Holmes, so Robert's wife highlighted Downey for him, and Ritchie agreed. That's where Robert's English accent skills gained in Chaplin came in handy. Sherlock grossed $524 million with a budget of $90, which was awesome. Most importantly, it showed the audiences Downey was adorable not only as a superhero, but also as a postmodern classical literature hero. The critics were impressed as well and gave Downey a Golden Globe for Sherlock. Downey's salaries kept growing. Loved by critics, grossing profits in cinemas. So yeah, obviously why not? For Sherlock, Robert demanded $9 million, a massive jump from his previous two for The Soloist. $1 million more than that for Iron Man 2, another one more for Due Date. For Sherlock Holmes sequel, he got the whole $15 million. That's when Marvel Studio realized not having a long-term contract with Downey is actually a pain in the ass. Robert could and did increase his fees. For the Avengers, Robert got $25 million as a fixed salary and $25 more as a bonus, making $50 in total. All other actors combined earned less than that. Downey giggled and said that's some karmic thing linked to hilarious $500,000 for the first Iron Man. Well, fair enough. While Downey signed for Avengers and lived his best life, Mel Gibson became a pariah in Hollywood for making another controversial statement. Robert couldn't just pass by this situation and made a glorious speech about his bro Mel at American Cinematheque Awards in 2011. That was huge, as canceling Gibson meant talking about him in public might make some sensitive people have a heart attack or spontaneous combustion. Downey said something like, "Come on, people, give this sweet pie a second chance," and hugged Mel, and that scene seemed to affect a lot of people, in a good way, thus leading to finally granting an indulgence to Gibson and allowing him to make movies again. That's how much Downey's words meant, especially during filming Avengers. Rumors say Robert intervened in the filming process and insisted on more screen time for Tony Stark, so they obliged. Some say Chris Evans initially had a bigger part, but it was cut during post-production. It's unclear why the studio would downplay Iron Man. He was the main attraction, the most profitable one, the most recognizable. Some believe the studio was unhappy with Robert's demands and considered replacing him, but couldn't for pretty obvious reasons. After Avengers' release in 2012 and earning $1.5 billion worldwide, probably the studio dropped the idea even if it had it before. As Downey was now on another level, some godlike Zeus-compatible legendary one. Almost immediately, they began to film Iron Man 3, for which Robert demanded $50 million up front. The film grossed almost the same as Avengers. Getting a bit tired of the iron costume, Robert tried a producer one and filmed The Judge with his wife. There, he played a top lawyer who only defends villains, as honest clients can't afford him. The Judge flopped, perhaps because of its mature rating and crazy $50 million budget. Robert heard the universe and felt like an iron costume actually fits him better. For a long time, he only appeared in Marvel films, except for a cameo in Chef by Jon Favreau. He turned down the lead in Favreau's Cowboys and Aliens, though, probably suspecting something was wrong with it. There followed Avengers, Age of Ultron, and Captain America: Civil War. Robert earned another $100 million with these, but now he wasn't the only one who demanded a truck of money. All the cast was super famous now, so the films became way too expensive. Age of Ultron's reshoots and extras pushed its budget over $300 million, grossing $1.4 billion. Almost the same for Civil War. Profits were still impressive, but not like in the good old days when some actors were ready to work for a six-pack of beer, thereby keeping movie budgets in line. For Spider-Man: Homecoming, Robert earned $10 million for a 10-minute cameo. like 1 million for 1 minute. Infinity War and Endgame brought him another 80. Considering these two are basically one film split into two, that may be a record fee for Downey. The studio wasn't left empty-handed though. Both grossed almost $5 billion in total and covered Disney's losses for years. Robert kept his promise and left Marvel after Endgame. He starred in Dolittle, which bombed in early 2020. One can blame COVID for its failure, but come on. Bad Boys for Life and Sonic the Hedgehog weren't affected by the virus that much for some reason. Dolittle grossed $251 million with a budget of $175 and brought Robert 2 Razzie nominations for the first time in his career. After such an ice-cold shower, the actor took a break from the big screen and disappeared for nearly 3 years. He also became a vegan since then and later even invested in some vegan steak company. In 2023, Robert returned in Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer, playing a supporting role. He took a serious pay cut to take part in this movie. Rumors say Nolan told Robert, like, man, you're an amazing actor, but let's just forget about your Jack Sparrowish manners in my movie, okay? I need some real menacing political puppet master Gramps here, so focus on that. And Robert did. Now he considers his role in Oppenheimer the best in his career, and critics obviously agree. Oppenheimer harvested awards like crazy, and Downey wasn't left aside. He got his first Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, the Golden Globe, and some other serious awards. That's really an impressive comeback right here. Recently during Comic-Con, it was confirmed that Robert will return to the MCU franchise as Dr. Victor Von Doom in upcoming Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. Kevin Feige said that they will not bring back Tony Stark as played by Robert, but there are rumors that Marvel is trying to get Tom Cruise for the new Iron Man role. Perhaps Robert's performance in Oppenheimer opened new opportunities for him portraying not just tricksters, but really bad to the Bone Boys. Some kind of multiverse magic will be needed to explain why Dr. Doom looks exactly like the old Tony Stark, but there are serious doubts that they'll play the Mysterio card again. Anyway, Marvel knows how to recast actors and make impressive comebacks, so no need to worry. Look at Chris Evans, Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman. Look at the last Spider-Man movie, after all. How fun was that? There was also news that they recently fired all the producers who could be called activists. So that seems like a good sign to me. After all the chaos of the past few years, I think we'll all appreciate Downey's comeback on our Pip-Boy screens in 2026. What do you think of Downey's return? Will it revive the franchise or will it ruin it? Let's crack this enigma in the comments. So, at first Robert was like that troublesome kid everyone predicted a great future for, but he preferred lying in a ditch without his pants by the side of the road. People would bring him his pants, clean up the poor bastard, give him another award, and then the cycle would repeat again. But nobody could be angry at Downey Jr. because of his adequacy and kindness. The actor wasn't wild or aggressive. He actually was a sweetie pie, not pushing his fists on anyone like Val Kilmer. Even Robert's neighbors, who once found him wasted sleeping in their flat, didn't press any charges. But when Downey reached the point where his name was bad for business, he realized, okay, that's time to really change something and stop being this self-destructive kid who was always the only one who held him back from his destiny. Whether that destiny is to star in Marvel until he's 90 or to make an epic comeback every decade and collect all the awards, we'll only know in time. Either way, it looks good for now. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to check other videos. See you in the next one. Peace.
Loosely prearranged destiny. And what's incredible is how far afield you can go from it and still find your way back.
It took a lot of elements that were already there, but were never firing at the same time. And then falling in love helps.